Hello, everybody, and welcome to Political Star Talk, a show that brings astrology to the political stage, or is it politics to the astrological stage? Either or. We're your hostesses, Jennie, Sonya, and Sibyl. Sonya, I'm Jennie. Sonya, how are you doing?
I am doing very well. Hello, world. Happy hump day.
Excellent. And tell us a little bit about yourself, Sonya. What are your favorite studies and topics?
Well, my favorite subject, of course, are universal laws. And I have a podcast that actually follows this one at 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time, 1:30 Pacific, on spirituality and how to apply universal laws to everyday living so that we can elevate our consciousness and become the authority over our energy. I'm also an ordained non-denominational minister and healing counselor.
Beautiful. I love that collection there. You're such a bright light, and I appreciate you. My name is Jennie, and I do a lot of intuitive work. My specialties are helping people take a look at their parallel lives so that they can heal emotional issues that are disturbing them in the here and now, in the current time frame continuum. So I'm a quantum chiromatic healer specializing in reading past lives, and I'll hold space emotionally, psychologically, energetically. I'm also a massage therapist, so I do a little bit of this and a little bit of that. And with us today, a special guest from California, we have Sibyl. Sibyl, why don't you tell us about yourself and what your favorite topics are?
Well, I'm Sibyl Starr, and I live in Sonoma County in Santa Rosa in Northern California. I feel very blessed to be where I am at this moment in time. But I have been a professional astrologer for about 20 years. I've studied with many different teachers, but I have really found that my passion lies, I'm going to say, in helping people see the bigger picture, that we're actually part of something greater than ourselves. And that so to help people stay inspired, to understand not only themselves but the world around them. I am also an ordained minister through the Center for Sacred Studies. I'm what is called a minister of her walking prayer, a minister of Mother Earth, and that particular program is very aligned with indigenous ways of prayer and wisdom. So I feel like I walk many different paths, but the astrology, like I said, I have been basically an astrologer since I was 12 years old. I realized at 12 years old that this was something that made sense out of the world for me, and I have been a devotee ever since.
Beautiful. Wonderful story. We appreciate you for being here. We're so excited to hear your take, the astrological take on what's happening in our political climate right now. Do you want to start us off with something you feel like is very important to look at? Maybe one of the more interesting topics that you've been mulling over? Mm-hmm.
Well, 2020 is just a really big year. It is a year when there are several cosmic cycles that end and begin, and it is a year of change and transition. As Greta Thunberg said, the next decade defines our future, and the year 2020 to me feels like it is the foundation of building that future. It is a time of great change with many practical solutions, and there is a very famous astrologer named Rick Tarnas, who is a professor at the California Institute of Integral Studies, and he says that the year 2020 is the year we're going through the eye of the needle. This is a year of hard work. And so I'm going to talk just a little bit about some of the bigger cycles so you kind of get a picture of what this means. And so it's like we're in the middle of it. And when you're in the middle of something, you can't always see the bigger picture and what is happening around you. Often we can see it when we look at past cycles of how they actually operate. And so this year, there is a Saturn-Pluto conjunction, and that happens 3 times a century. And Saturn is the call him the Lord of Karma. He rules the energy here on the energy of a form. Okay, and say, he's the Lord of Karma. He rules consensus reality. And I need to just go to my notes here for just a second to make sure I say everything. So yes, that's what he is. He rules consensus reality, the reality that we all agree is true. We know that reality is much bigger than our consensus reality. So this is a time of changing reality and expanding our view. Saturn is conjunct the planet Pluto, which is the god of death and rebirth, god of transformation. We are in very transformational times. When these two planets come together, like I said, it's a time of changing, of transforming our consensus reality, and it is around the responsible use of power and resources, and its shadow often comes up. Wherever Pluto is at, it shows us the underbelly, the decay that is lying in the center. So both of these planets are in the sign of Capricorn, which has to do with societal structures, so it has to do with government, has to do with banking, it has to do with the structures that we hang our civilization upon. And so just one example of how this has worked in the past, so you can maybe see how it's working in the future. In 1980, in 1982, these planets came together in Libra. Libra has to do with relationships. What we were dealing with in 1982 was the AIDS crisis. Mm-hmm. And there were many things we were dealing with. But you know, when we look at relationship, we look at Libra, we look at relationship. And that was an absolutely horrible thing that happened. And in no way can anyone say that it wasn't. And yet it opened our hearts to that we love who we love. And in this year, 2020, gay marriage is legal. So you see, there was a changing of consensus reality, even though we went through a difficult process. Look at where we are. So we are in the same place around our societal structures, we're seeing Pluto is bringing forth the decay. You know, we are seeing how deeply corrupt these structures that we have hung our civilization upon and how they're no longer working. And Saturn is calling for accountability, and we are calling for accountability. But our structures are so corrupt, we're not getting results, but we will. So this is one of the things that I am seeing. And Capricorn, this year has many, many planets in Capricorn. Capricorn is about climbing a mountain, staying focused, doing our work. And it is about and remembering that our inner world creates our outer world. You know, so it's always about being lined up ourselves with what the Egyptians called Ma'at, which is truth, which is cosmic law, which is, as Sonya talked about, universal principles. We know in our hearts what the truth is, and we're calling for that accountability, first within ourselves, and then as it ripples out, then we create the world. And just because everything may not be going exactly as we want right now, it will. We're not there yet, but we are working. And just know that this cycle is starting a whole new cycle. There's many other ones, but this is the one I wanted to start with. So do you have any questions?
Sonya, do you have any questions?
Well, I'm curious, how does that affect our current political landscape in terms of right now we have the Democratic election going? Is there any impact, or can you see any correlation as far as that is concerned?
Okay, the correlation that I'm seeing is, we have seen the power structure come around and, political machine in the Democratic Party coming together. This is that Capricorn. This is the old way. It is kind of like they say, it's the last gasp of, and it may not be the last gasp, but the last gasp is coming. This is what I'm seeing, but I'm also seeing with Capricorn Capricorn is climbing a mountain, and so it says stay focused. It's like when you're climbing a mountain, you have to look at each step. You have to stay focused. You have to know that you are working hard to get to that top of the mountain, and there is rewards coming. But this is a time right at this moment to not succumb to fear, put it that way. We talked about fear. Fear is everywhere. Okay, Saturn also brings up fear. And the truth of it is the old paradigm is crumbling. You know, the old paradigm was based on fear.
Mm-hmm.
You know? And that fear is rising up. And the thing is to let it pass through you and not grab it as your own.
Mm.
It's true. This is a wonderful opportunity to work with this karmic lesson of alchemizing fear into curiosity, or at least neutralizing it. Because when you go into a fear state of mind, everything becomes anxious and stressed and constricted. It's not a growthful place to look at things. We're getting lots of opportunities, and that's crazy about the correlation of 1982 with the fear of the AIDS epidemic that was running through. And I remember Princess Diana being photographed shaking and hugging a man that had been affected by AIDS, and everyone was like, oh, she's so brave. And it's just because we didn't know enough about it to know that indeed you can hug and touch someone with AIDS and not contract it. So I think that there's so much growth in these detriments. Like, of course, the AIDS epidemic was not a pleasant experience, but it did, like Sibyl say, open up the awareness, open up the eyes, bring in some heart energy, understanding. And look, today there is legal gay marriage. It's brilliant to watch. I don't like to watch people struggle, but when you see us struggle as a collective, we are moving through. There is another side to that healing, and it's usually freedom of some sort. So it's exciting to look at it like that. So do you have anything to add before we go back into Sibyl's beautiful talk here?
Well, I was just going to add that it was funny that you had mentioned that, but pain, when I was doing research on a topic on pain, it said pain is liberation. Of course, this is from a metaphysical perspective, but yes, there in every experience there is a growth opportunity, whether it is on a micro scale dealing with the individual or a macro, as Sibyl had alluded to, the consensus reality. So no, that's all I want to add.
So cool.
Yeah, and this also too, you know, as we've got a lot of this Capricorn energy, but we're also moving into Aquarian energy. You know, it is it's a fluid process, you know, and Saturn, like I said, is the planet that rules the structures of our civilization. Saturn is moving into Aquarius, which is actually about systems and the interconnectedness of people. And I feel like we just continue to take steps toward the age of Aquarius, which is about the people. It is about the power of the people. It is about social movements. It is about coming together. And I feel like there is a wave of energy that is happening that cannot be stopped. Obstacles can be put in our way, but it cannot be stopped because the universe is at our back. The wind is at our back. And sometimes we may have to regroup. We may have to think it through differently, but to know that it is as we're moving more into Aquarius. Okay, so just to get specific, I'm going to go forward, then I'm going to come back. So the other big cycle that is happening this year is the Saturn Jupiter cycle. That happens every 20 years, just like clockwork. And it is the zeitgeist of the time. Okay, it is the spirit of the age. And for the last 200 years, with one exception, Saturn and Jupiter have met in earth signs, which have been very practical, very material-oriented, very safe-oriented. And I guess I should speak to what Jupiter is. I've talked a lot about Saturn. Jupiter is the vision. Jupiter is a visionary planet. Jupiter is what is called a great benefic in the astrological realm, brings opportunity, brings gifts. And when they come together, Saturn and Jupiter, it is a very manifesting energy. And so the energy that is manifesting starting in December, actually on winter solstice of 2020, this conjunction moves into a 200-year cycle in air signs, starting with Aquarius. And air is flexible, air is connected.